Hi guys! Thank you all for joining our webinar tonight. We're thrilled to have you here as we dive into some exciting innovations that will revolutionize your practice. First, we're going to hear from our CEO, Jared Murray, who will discuss how the Custom Complete platform can enhance your practice by providing your patients with personalized supplements tailored to their unique needs. Following Jared, Dr. Michael Rahman will share insights on how our microblends are the perfect addition to your patients' protocols, ensuring they receive the most effective and customized care possible. Stay tuned for an enlightening session filled with valuable information to take your practice to the next level.
Hello and welcome. On behalf of Alive Innovations, my name is Jared Murray, the CEO here with the company. Our team welcomes every single one of you. So we appreciate you spending the time with us to learn more about, in this case, this webinar is about the Custom Complete. We want to give you a little bit of insight into this new technology that we've developed and see how it could maybe benefit your practice by and large, because we know that most of you, if you're like most, the days go by really quickly and you're trying to juggle everything and juggle your client workload and trying to keep up with learning new things. So we're going to try to make this very concise today and make sure that you can understand some of the key points, in this case with the Custom Complete, and understand how Alive Innovations can help support you in your practice. So we look forward to you spending the next few minutes with us. So it's nice to see you all. Today, like I mentioned, we are going to discuss specifically the Custom Complete service that you have the option to integrate into your practice and how it can benefit your practice. First of all, about the Custom Complete, it's been a development process that's lasted for, seems like too long, about three or so years, 3.5 years or so, 4 years. We've been working on it. What brought it about was it always bothered me when I purchased supplements, and this happened literally to me. I was testing out a product, and in it, I noticed in the capsule, which holds about 700 milligrams of product, it had 28 minerals, 28 milligrams of active components. The rest of it was just rice flour. And I even called the company. I says, why do you have 28 milligrams of product? Well, that's all we put in, and it was an expensive product. And that just bothered me. So I thought, what we really need to do is be able to fill a whole capsule and optimize it and not use the rice flour, the cellulose, the stearates, or things like that most companies use. So that's why here at Alive Innovations, you won't see fillers in our products. We just don't use them. And does it cost a little bit more? Sometimes it does, to be honest with you. But in reality, the potency is much higher. So you should have to take less. We believe if you're going to take something, we don't want to waste your time in taking cellulose, which does no good for the body. We want you to only take beneficial products. So the Custom Complete is really a labor of love that the Alive team has put together for our practitioners to give them the ability to customize on the fly formulations for clients based on their specific needs and what a patient needs. What do they want? And that's what the Custom Complete has been able to do. So it's a tailored made for your patients. It allows them to really trim down the boatloads of products. If you've been in the practice long enough, you remember Mary coming in with she's got the laundry basket or a grocery basket of product. Well, this is what I'm taking. And I sometimes I like, oh my gosh, that is a lot of product. And I'm into product, don't get me wrong. But even that's too much for me. So what we wanted to do is put together a product that kind of simplifies that process. Now, the Custom Complete service is actually free to practitioners. There is no upfront costs at all. We want to get the word out. We want you as practitioners to differentiate yourselves from others, as we'll talk about later on. And it gives you really the ability to think outside the box, develop your own products. We do have over 250 ingredients and different formulas and things like that in the platform currently. We're always adding more. If there's something that you really need and that we feel we can justify adding that you're going to order, that's something that just give one of the live reps a call or myself, and we're more than happy to help you out with that. But I think you're gonna, once you try it and realize when you're traveling, you might still take 3 or 4 different products with you, but then all you need is the custom product. That's where the uniqueness really steps in. So the custom complete, we're going to demonstrate that a little bit here. I've got a little short video that I'll play with you. But just so you understand, this is the end result. So it comes in this customized to each individual, as well as there's other ways we can get it to you. And it's a very simple process, as you can see here. So this is the user dashboard. And on the user dashboard, what you're going to see here is you have full control in this dashboard over the pricing of the product, number one. So you can put the standard multiplier in there if you want, or you can reduce it. It's totally up to you what you want to do. You can charge more. In some cases, we do have clients charging more because you can't go on to Amazon and buy everything that you can see in this product. Literally, it doesn't exist. It only exists here. It also gives you secret sauce, because when you think about it, when a client wants to buy a supplement from you and they say, well, you need this, this, and this, once you show them what they need based on the proposal, which I'll show you in a second, they're like, oh yeah. If they go in and say, I'm going to get that on Amazon, I get that on Amazon, get that on Amazon, they're literally going to spend 2 to 3 times or more, 10 times what they would purchase this for. So it's a very simple process. By and large, I'm going to just spend a few minutes on showing you some of the basics. One is you're going to, on the dashboard here, after you put in your own logo and your brand logo, which goes on the front and center of the product, which is really cool. It's called our co-branding. In this dashboard, you have full control in seeing and managing the process. So once you enter in the new client here and save the new client, you immediately go to this next page. And again, there's only 2 steps. This page is where you put in your primary ingredients. So these are the things that you want to add in the most of. And it just simply 1-3 times a day. We can change that later. And we're adding in those products. And if you put something in that you don't like, you can easily click on the red X there and delete it if you so desire. As you can see, the duration is 8 weeks. We just set that as a default. You can do it as little as 6 weeks, and you can modify that as we go. I'll just play it once more in case you want to review it again while we're on this page. But you can see there, hovering over also gives you additional features, so you can see and take a look at the product. So you can see what is in it, what's driving that product, what is it used for, and the serving size as a standard rule of thumb. In this page, we always do a dosing 1-3 times a day. Keep in mind, you do not have to take it. We'll show you how to change that. Our techs can show you how to change that if you so desire to just do 2 times a day. It's not a big deal. But also, you can see that it has a lot of good information. It shows you the standard milligrams, in this case, of astragalus that can be taken at any given time. And then what does astragalus support? If you're a novice and you're just getting into this, you don't want to give someone too much, we can show you. But all of these numbers in this section, they're all safe quantities to add 1-3 times a day to add to the formula. So what does that do? That starts out your formula. If you imagine your capsule, so now we've added a base formula, and people say, well, how do I know what to choose for the base? Well, our systems integrate with Quest and the AO scan. If you have the AO scan or our QCS systems out there, those are all integratable. Just contact any one of the live representatives. We're happy to show you how those get integrated in. And you can determine what they need also off a symptom survey. So if you have a client come in and say, well, I don't have a lot of energy, not sleeping very good at night. I have some GI issues here, and I'm concerned about my heart. Well, what do you choose? Well, you have adrenal or endocrine support formula. You have our Betamax formula, which is designed for the gut. You also have our heart formula, which is designed for the heart. And then you also have other ingredients that you can optimize, like using phosphatidylcholine. Or maybe you have a client that comes in and says, you know what, um, I am not, I'm feeling a little bit depressed. And I'm not feeling myself lately. I feel a little run down, but I feel a little, maybe more anxiety. So the cool thing with this system is it gives you the full ability to then get into the optimization. This is step 2 here, where we're literally optimizing a formula right now. So you can add in the amount of milligrams of an individual. You can reduce it from this screen as well. So if someone came in here and said, you know what, maybe we're going to add a little GABA to the formula to make sure that we balance out the formula to help them feel better. Or we have a product called scalecium that we import from Africa. It's a natural SSRI, amazing, powerful, powerful product that helps to really balance out the mental status and make sure that people feel good. And it can really literally get rid of different SSRIs. As you can see here in the customization section, it's very simple to use. This is, like I said, step 2. I'll play it once more for you so you can take a look at it. In the left-hand side, you can see what's in the capsule. The right-hand side is the daily serving over here. And then down here, you're just simply choosing the additional ingredients you want to add and the amounts. And you hit the plus or minus. If you want to reduce something, obviously hit the minus. If you want to get rid of something, you can hit the trash can and get rid. But this is all done underneath Optimize a Capsule. And so we look at every capsule individually. We're filling it to its brim, and then you move on and you're done. And literally, this is it. That's it. You're done. You see down here, this is your daily serving. So if you want to review and say that, well, black currant, I don't want 180 milligrams of black currant. You can go in, just optimize the capsule and reduce it down to what you want and fill it with something else. It's that simple. We can also look at the indications here off on the right-hand side, the notes. So you can see this prints out on the report that you give to your clients, which is really cool. At this feature, it does have a nice report that you can, or a quote, I should say. You can either suppress the pricing or show the pricing to your client, and then they can make an informed decision. Oh, you know what? I'm allergic to aloe. I've had that come up. So we just delete it and run it through, or we add more magnesium or add amino acids to it, amino acid complex. Very, very simple to do. This whole process is designed to take no more than 10 minutes. Usually, I can design one. It takes longer to enter the client data than it does to build the actual formula. And it's ideal for putting 3 or more base ingredients together and then optimizing the capsule with other products, curcumin, turmeric, or parsley, or glutathione, or NAD plus, or vitamin C, or camu, any one of those. And they're all in the catalog, and they're also available on here. So to give you an example, then the next phase is just simply click on the proceed button to check out. The last 2 phases are very simple. I won't show you the screen today, but you just put in, this is where you have the number of capsules per day they want to take. If it says, maybe it says 9 and you only want them to take 3 twice a day, change it to 6. It automatically changes everything on the label so that it matches the amount that you're recommending for the serving size. And then you can customize the name. So in this case, I put my name on the formula, but you can put Jimmy's marvelous formula, or his Go Juice, or whatever you want to put on it. It's totally up to you. The balance of the facts, the how to take it, is also printed on the bottle so that people can know that they start out slow and then they work up to a full serving, and simply proceed to checkout. It's all purchased in real time. And through the dashboard, you can literally manage the process. So your client calls you maybe 2 or 3 days later, hey, what's the status on my custom complete? The beauty of this is it only takes about 10 days for us to make, 10 working days or less, to make and ship the custom product. It's a marvelous process. We're very proud of it. We're looking forward to working with you on it. But you'll be able to see oh, it's been accepted, or maybe there was a problem with it. Maybe there's an exception. It'll notify you in the dashboard so you can look at it. You can even check the shipping out in that dashboard, which is marvelous. Our team has done an absolutely stunning job at putting that together. So the nice thing, just to boil this all back down, is how do you benefit as you practice? Is it something you have to learn? Yes, it will take. It'll take you about an hour to maybe go through it with a technician, or through this video to learn how to use it. And it will take about 5 to 10 minutes to create the product. It shouldn't take much more than that, especially if you know your product and know your ingredients. That's the hardest thing. We provide a lot of that educational information. The nice thing is it's customizing it for each patient. Each patient. That is something nobody else does. You might have seen those little packets, like we may have mentioned that earlier. This is taking it to a whole new level. We're literally developing a capsule that's designed for each individual person. Nobody else does it. And your client can't go onto Amazon or to Walgreens and buy the same product. They just can't. They'll never be able to find it. It is only your formulas are unique to your practice. So it also gives individual care. So now, this patient, they're paying a little bit more, but once they feel a difference in this product, that is where they are your patient for life. And frankly, every single patient that we've given this to, one of the unique things is they always finish the bottle. They always finish the bottle, which leads to better outcome, especially when you're dealing with parasitic issues or mold issues. The nice thing is it's nimble. Oh, you want to reorder, Mary? Sure, click. But can we can we add a little bit more heart support or a little bit more adrenal support? Sure, no problem. Literally, that change might take a minute to do, and you're good to go. So the other thing that this offers is more brand recognition. So because you can put your own brand on the product, that is unique to you. And remember, that goes for whether it's a bulk order, which is 90 count bottle of 36 bottles. We can do that. If you're piloting a new product and you want to try this out and you want to have something to sell in your store and you don't want to wait the 10 days, we can do that too. You have everybody coming in that needs mold and parasitic issues. We can combine those two formulas into one capsule and give you a really marvelous formula. So it's really the next evolution and more forward thinking for practitioners that want to be on the cutting edge of the latest and greatest opportunities available. And keep in mind that we do ship these direct on your behalf to the client's residence. So they don't have to make another appointment to come back to you. It'll automatically be shipped and go to them. The nice thing too is it's a cost-effective solution with this. You're not wasting a lot of product. You're only taking product that is going to benefit the body, and your clients are always going to be able to finish that. So just to recap, creating the custom supplementation, you basically choose, once you enter their name in, the next phase would be select the primary ingredients, whether it's vitamins, minerals, amino acids, herbals, or different from the specific list. And then you optimize. The next phase is to optimize the capsule. Fill the capsule the rest of the way with the same ingredients if you want, or something totally different. The formulas are designed based on your client's needs and specific deficiencies and or with their health goals in mind. So that you can't get any better than that. We also offer, as we mentioned earlier, the small bulk orders. So now these are 90 count bottles, same thing with your logo on it. And we can show you how to design those. The process is very similar. It doesn't take any longer to design those. It's actually even easier. And you need to purchase only 36 bottles and you're good to go. And we can do those in as little as 10 days and provide you with it. It is the only limitation we have is the standard label does apply. So we actually have some new ones that just got released, but your logo is front and center on those as well. And the nice thing is you can pilot these, whether it's a individual product for an individual person or a small bulk order, you can pilot these products. You know what? I want to add a little bit more magnesium in the next run before you're set. Keep in mind too that while we do larger production runs for customers, um, different pricing tiers do step in. So the more you want to produce, you just let us know, and then we can provide additional pricing discounts as the volume increases. But you'll find that the custom complete does provide the infrastructure to make it easy for you to build specific products for your practice and for your clients. Just to recap, there's really minimal investment here. The bulk orders is only 36 bottles. It doesn't take much to do that. And the individual products here, when you're looking at that, the average bulk orders might be around $1,000 or so. And then the average client retail is probably around 400 or so. Obviously, that's less expensive for the practice, and you have full flexibility over your pricing. The nice thing too is you can gauge how well it's doing. If you're selling it in the open marketplace, you can make some tweaks to keep up with competition. It's designed to keep you very nimble in the marketplace so that you can make changes on the fly. And with a small flexibility of ordering smaller bulk runs like that, it gives you full access to all the nutrients that you need, along with the ability to control your inventory a little bit better. So are you ready to make your practice a little bit different? We'd love at Alive Innovations, we'd love to help you with this. If you want to take a further look at this, talk to one of our representatives. We're more than happy to explain to you the whole process, how it works, and how easy it is to build a custom product for you. You can go to our website and you can go to app.aliveinnovations.com. This shows you directly to the initial dashboard that you can log into. Or if you go to our standard website, aliveinnovations.com, you can look for the CC app, which is just short for Custom Complete, and learn how to build your own Custom Complete formula today. We look forward to working with you. And as always, if there's anything more that we here at Alive Innovations can do, we'd love to hear from you and look forward to building your next Custom Complete formula.
Thank you, Jared, for all of the valuable insights. Now, let's turn it over to Dr. Rahman, who will discuss our microblend line.
Hello there, this is Dr. Michael Rahman, and today we'll be talking a little bit about the microblends from Alive Innovations and the unique offerings here, and how we might be able to pair these offerings for the microblends. With your standard stock products or custom complete products in order to achieve the best clinical and therapeutic outcome. Let's delve into it. So today we're going to have a quick little overview of the ingredient sources, the information related to the energy or the kinetic energies of the remedy choices, a little bit about the law of cure, the rationale of the microblends, and some of the blends that might be available. We have here the live microblend line, and I'm not going to take the time to go through this slide. I encourage you to actually download the PowerPoints and you can take a look here. The standards here for FDA criteria have been met, and there are certifications here. They are BSE free, and I want you to understand that they are coming from leading biodynamic companies, and there's certain metabolic factors, biochemicals, molecules, fluid secretions that are put together in the product to allow the product to actually help one to achieve homeostasis. This includes things like amino acids and catalysts and cytokines and enzymes that are found within the product itself, and growth factors, hormonal influencers, neurotransmitters, peptides, etc. We can also find within the product things like no-sods, which are coming from similar to the action, if you will, of something vaccine related, meaning it helps to stimulate the immune system in a certain way. Certain allergens, which are also known as no-sods, which help with providing back education to the immune system. Or the isonosode or isode, which is another chemical or substance which can cause a health challenge, which is given back for education to the immune system. Biodynamic and organic and wildcrafted, handcrafted product is what's used in harvesting in an anthroposophical way. I'm talking a little bit more here about the ingredients. There are plant and animal substances that are harvested in very specific times in order to bring about the most effective ingredients, or bring about the most active constituents within the ingredients. There are certain metabolic factors as well that are applied to the product, and the concentrations here become very important. For those of you that understand anything about the physiologies of independent or ultra low dose product, you can actually then understand that when we have a mother tincture, it's actually acting through a pharmacological concentration where the substance is considered to be in its full strength. If it's in a low dose, we've got actually a physiological low dose, especially it's mimicking the concentration that might be found in blood. Often it's in parts per million, or even more dilute than that. Here we have a study. It's known as the Rumio study at University of Milan. It, in fact, had to do with the administration of low-dose interleukin-12 and interferon gamma in asthmatic mice. The mice were essentially induced into asthma by giving them the albumin protein of egg, and they had an induction of the asthmatic state. This asthmatic state is a Th2 mediated or regulated state, which in its essence has a lot of the interleukin 4 and 5 associated with it as the chemical mediators of the processes that drive asthma, including the production of things like histamine. And so the interleukin 12 and interferon gamma was given in 3 different forms in order to downregulate Th2 and upregulate the Th1 mediators. The Th1 mediators of interleukin 12 and interferon gamma were given in either a pharmacological dose, a low dose physiological dose, so mimicking what might be found in the blood, and then a low dose physiologically, but then kinesthetically activated. And the results here was that in the pharma dose, the poor mice suffered and passed, and in the low dose there was no difference. Essentially it was like a placebo which would have been given. And in the low dose but kinesthetically activated, there was a balance found in both the Th1 and Th2, which ultimately led them out of that asthmatic influence. The beauty of the microblend is that it is working at influencing these messenger molecules. The messenger molecules, which might include the cytokines, the neurotransmitters, the hormones, the peptides, all of which are known as messenger molecules going to the cell receptor surface and on the cell site actually being first bound to the receptor and creating a response within the cell itself. And this can occur as a consequence of that binding ligand receptor influence. So the Rumio study actually then had the induction of potential friction against one another, creating an environment internally which potentially enhanced the kinetic influence of the signal transfer to the cell. And so essentially that's the postulate, that it's this potential buildup of molecular chemical energy which directly is impacting the signal strength or amplifying the signal strength. Is this meaning then that there might be a place for these ultra low dose remedies? The concentrations, it's important that maybe you have a quick little understanding of concentration. There are concentrations here with the X form is essentially a 1/10th dilution, the C is a 1/100th dilution, a K is a 1/100th dilution, with the lower residues of the dilution still also being found within the solution, and the homochords are a mixture of these dilutions. This is what you will find in some of the remedies as you look at what is in here. The delivery forms of microdosing or microblends and microdosing is either an oral format, which is usually with 20% alcohol, topical format, nasal spray format, which is available, eye or ear drops, injectables, creams, tablets, and potentially those that can be opted as oral topical sprays have a multi-application. So it can be used orally, can be used for electroporation, meaning the application of an electrical current at the level of the skin, or light activation, or magnetic field activation, or ultrasound activation. And we could also, for those of you that do have access to the product in its injectable format, it can be injected in terms of biopuncture, intramuscular, intravenously. Mesotherapy, which is actually injection into the the subcutaneous tissue, if you will, not the mesoderm, because mesoderm does not exist in the adult version. It's an embryological tissue. We can also provide or add it to the cupping or topical therapies and by nebulizer, or by putting a micro roller on, so spraying the product on and rolling over top of it, and potentially even in steam inhalation. So lots of attributes there. Drainage and detox, these terms are oftentimes intertwined or intermingled, and they mean a little bit different things. Drainage is actually to open up the elimination routes to allow for flow through the area, and detox is actually cleaning out the systems, the tissues. It's having a deeper action. So it's moving from things from a more extracellular place to, or from an intracellular to an extracellular place. Imagine that you have a sink full of dishwater after cleaning up from eating a spaghetti meal. To open the drain is actually the drainage, if you will, and by cleaning all the stains and things off the surfaces or the sides of the sink, this is in fact what is the detox, the cleaning up, the deeper cleaning, if you will. And so the hierarchy of the systems, if we take an understanding of the water molecule, and we understand that the water molecule can exist in many different forms: a snowflake, a steam, percolating water, boiling water, water itself, or slush or ice. We understand that based on all of these dimensional existences, the only difference, if you will, in the water from the steam, or water from the slush, or water from the percolation of water, is the vibratory rate. Is in fact maybe the bonds that are within that sort of substance and within that state of the substance. The bond itself might have a certain vibration associated with it. So we know that certain bonds, as they are in different angles, will have different vibrations also associated with them. And as they come into friction with one another, might also have more frequency or resonance associated with them. This does in fact bring us to that concept, if you will, of bioresonance. Bioresonance is that biofeedback technology in which we are understanding that these frequency segments do exist, and that they exist at different ranges of lower to higher frequency, and that each of these things can be sort of grouped or clumped together, and it closely mimics the ideology of maybe higher frequency has to do with some things being closer together and having more frequency associated with them, more cellular vibrations versus things that are maybe further separated apart, such as water in its natural state, maybe a little more separation, if you will, there. The technologies of resonance and bioresonance have to do with balancing any frequency range which is off by certain amplifications, or by certain sort of giving back, if you will, of the equal yet opposite frequencies, almost like noise cancellation technology. This whole concept is recognizing that the body is a complex, multi-biological system that is full of different resonances, and that these resonances can be equalized or balanced by resonances that are within similar ranges. And so the proprietary resonance technique, if you will, is in the microblend formulas. Remember here that we have all of these concepts that integrate this biochemically, the kinetic quality, that bioresonance quality, if you will, the idea that we've got water that exists in these different states, only separated by the different bioresonance frequencies of the energy signature, which would separate one state to the next. And once again here we have the understanding that the different formulas have different structure and function where available, and we do have the base biological and pathological processes and pathways being influenced in each of the different microblends, and that the end result is a multi-tiered approach or influence that is again found in each individual formula, and the formula that are put together, are made to be synergistic and to qualify it as such. So this is a bit of a confusing slide that I've put together, if you will, that helps to understand what our therapy targets might be. The best way I'd like to actually have you envision the use of these microblend remedies is to understand that every chronic disease state and acute state disease manifestation usually has three main systems associated with it that are also working in cohorts in a symphony to orchestrate certain responses in the body. So we're talking about the systems of the immune system, the endocrine, and the neurological systems as being our main systems of reactivity, if you will, in the body. And so this reactivity we can then qualify as possibly being meant to be divided, if you will, in certain states of recovery or disease progression, as we see here on the top of the x-axis here, where in the recovery state, we can think about certain microblends having much more of an influence. And in disease progression, we're wanting to maybe utilize some of these microblends to help move a person back out of disease progression. We then understand also that there are certain metabolic types that might influence differently, the fast metabolizer versus the slow metabolizer, someone who's in an anabolic state versus a catabolic state, and we can apply certain remedies in certain states. Now, there are certain remedies that also work a little more effectively at the activation of the Th1 axis, which is that axis that has to do less so with the allergy, but has to do with general healing and activation, especially of the sympathetic nervous system. Here we also have maybe the potential for more thyroid-related activation versus that parasympathetic dominant state, the adrenal activation state, which is much more maybe a 2Th2 activation state, or the allergic state. And in that allergic state, we might actually find the need for certain microblends also to be applied in certain ways, in different than in a thyroid activation state or a sympathetic activation state, where we have the application of yet another subset of these microblends. So this is definitely a slide that's worth actually maybe printing out or accessing or coming back to, and spending a little bit more time in trying to make the references and an understanding in clinical practice, the things that we do see that have to be said about anabolism. For example, if we take a look at some of the remedies here, the FML Pro and the ML Pro, these are more anabolic in nature. They help to build up or tonify or strengthen the endocrine response system. Also here we have the neuro product, which helps to strengthen the neurological response mechanisms. These are the microblends that are all laid out. The Allergy Pro is one that I might spend a little bit more time in actually dissecting out the individual constituents of it, designed for the aiding and the relief of symptoms and emotions that have to do with overreactivity in situations that have to do with allergy and or even just crises in one's life. And this could also relate back to crises which are in fact more of an emotional level. I've mentioned the FML Pro, Fungus for Fungal Pro, GI for GI-DX for GI and bowel concerns. And here we are with the Allergy Pro remedy. The Allergy Pro is a micro blend proprietarily of some glandular substances. It has to do with the suis glandular, so that's porcine derived, of adrenal, lung, mucosa, Peyer's patches of the digestive tract, thymus, and the essences of the rescue remedy, if you will. Here we have clematis in patients, rock rose, and Star of Bethlehem. And certain micronutrients which also allow us chlorine, chloride, manganese, and ammonium carbonate, which also help to tamper and dampen that overactive immune response. Here are some other remedies that we might want to consider ImmuPro for generalized overall regeneration of the immune system. LV Pro, which is liver, LVR Pro for drainage and detoxification of the liver. The Lymph DX, which is for healthy lymphatic system and detoxification of the lymphatic tissue. We've got the NeuroPro, which I've mentioned to you as well, which has to do with neurotransmitter support and core regenerative nutrient support for the nervous system. RLF Pro, which again has to do with detox and can potentially help us, the body's reactions in times of stress and detoxification. And one of my most favorites is the SYSDX, which supports all the detox and drainage pathways of all the major systems of the body, the liver, the kidney, the lymphatics, the skin, the circulation. And that brings us to the end of the presentation today. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's just really a tantalizing sort of introduction, if you will, to the world of microblends, with the intention and the invitation for you to learn more about this and more about how the Alive Innovation product listings and product line and offerings also of technology might be a benefit to you and to your patients. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you both for sharing your expertise with us. And thank you to our audience for taking the time out of your day to join us. Now it's time for our Q&A session. We'll turn it back over to Jared and Dr. Rahman.
Hello, everyone. Great to have everyone here. It's kind of a new platform, so bear with me, trying to get caught up. Thank you, Dr. Rahman, for that wonderful presentation. Appreciate that level of insight. So we just wanted to open it up to the floor. I'm assuming that we will see if you type something in the chat room, if you have a question or something like that, or want to tell us that you're asleep, that's fine too. Happy to know more.
Yes.
Well,
but thank you for paying attention and staying with us till the end like that. Yeah. Appreciate it.
We're almost to the weekend. We appreciate everybody hanging in there. One of the things I was going to mention regarding the all of the products, every single one was designed. Dr. Rahman has spent an integral part in designing the microblends and a lot of our supplementation that we have here. So there's a lot of interesting. Maybe if I could ask, let's see, we do have a question here. Products recommended. So generally from the meet and greet, from the turnaround delivery of products, if you're looking for custom complete, it's 10 days approximately, or a little bit less. Typically, if you get it turned in right away, you'll notice within 24 hours, the unit or the product is accepted, and then production is started. There's the occasion that we've have a back order, but it would flag that as an exception. From our medical division, which Dr. Rahman runs here, generally speaking, we like to get back to our clients with their recommendations within 7 to 10 days when we see a client. And we do have, through our medical division, through Dr. Rahman, we do have a really nice program. He can probably explain a little bit more about the huddle and that concept if you want, Dr. Rahman.
Sorry. What concept?
The huddle aspect of it. Yeah. For those that may need an expertise in some other area or want to bounce ideas off, we do offer some services that way.
We were hoping actually today would be kind of an informal huddle for our providers to sort of come together and actually bring, because we did put a call out by email, to have you bring some of your more sort of complicated or challenging, or, we can't all have therapy successes. I mean, sitting up here and actually suggesting that every single time you sit in front of someone, you're going to have success would be very foolhardy, wouldn't it? Right? There are going to be those individuals that you just say, oh, I really wish I had a little bit more insight on this. And so as a result, that was actually one of the reasonings behind us putting together the concept of a therapeutic huddle. The huddle is intended to bring together a number of different providers. Jared is oftentimes, if not always, involved. We have some nurse practitioners and providers that also come together with us. And then we've got access to a few other medical directors that come and sit on panel, if you will, with your clients. And sometimes these clients are also accompanied by the providers such as yourselves to sit there and actually just sort of bounce the ideas off of one another based on all of the information being provided. Just as if the client is sitting there with you, we are actually sort of representing more that expert consulting sort of panel, if you will, or team. Together, Jared and I and the team might represent, decades and decades of clinical experience all put together. I know myself, I'm into almost 30 years of doing integrative medicine. And so, bring that to the table indeed.
Yeah. The next, one of the other questions we have here is, what's the protocol of parasitic and mold? And what testing is provided that can guide the patient. So that's very interesting because we just got through with a huddle yesterday, And this is a practitioner, a current client of Alive Innovations, that again, we're not trying to take the place of that practitioner, but she recognized this current case was over her head, and we worked with her a little bit to help resolve it, and amazing results with parasitic exposure with the young one. That every case is different. Generally, what we do in those protocols is we develop a custom complete, and there is a protocol following. It's the moon cycles, which is also extremely beneficial. We do see that most of the time those have taken upwards of 6 weeks, and sometimes longer for doing that. And I don't know if you want to speak to that anymore, the parasitic load.
Yeah, I mean, part of establishing that there might be some influence in this direction would be to consider some of the frequency-based techniques for testing. Say, for example, the quantum cellular scan scans for about 75 different parasitic influences. Now, I might do this a little differently. I look at this, and there are ways in the back office that we can determine whether or not this is a newer presentation or something that's been there for some time. I use a very general, fast rule that if I'm looking at this report as it's being generated, the frequency calibrations of the report that is coming, it's part of the report for the quantum cellular scan. It's called the vital scan. And if I look at this report of 75 or so different parasites, and I say, okay, well, there's a baseline exposure that most people will actually have in today's environment of parasitic influence, that might actually equate to these numbers that I have come up with as my understanding. If we're actually in the reference range of like having 15 of these frequencies not calibrate or not sort of correct themselves after sort of being put through the process of frequency calibration or balancing, then I am thinking, oh, there's something here. We've got to do something about this. So I look at the total number and say, okay, we've got more than 20 here or 25. We need to treat for parasitic influences. So that's one way that we can also look at making that assessment. A lot of times the symptom might also give it away, if you will. Periodicity, things happening every month, having the itchy bums, having the sort of the inability to sort of gain weight. Well, some people might like that, but in a child, for example, that might be a bit concerning, or just nutrient deficiencies that don't seem to want to correct, a whole slew of things. There was one more thing that I wanted to mention about the mold before we forget. There was also a question about mold.
Yeah.
And that's also something that is very disturbing to the immune functions and adds a certain level of chaos. So oftentimes you can find that if someone has had exposures already to chronic, latent, and I call them stealth infections that are hidden, right? These hidden types of infections, such as parasitic infection, they oftentimes lead us down the path of mold sensitivity. So it's almost like one gets layered on top of the other. And so remedies such as the microblend remedies, like the Aller Balance remedy or Aller Pro remedy, and then the Immune Pro remedies, they're fantastic to help with that recalibration of intracellular communication of the immune system.
Yeah, so, if I could interject, one of the new ones that we have, because mold has been so pervasive in a lot of the clients that we deal with in Florida and other areas. And if I don't know if any of you have saw this, but just recently an article was released that I read in a medical journal stating that the COVID virus basically deactivated our ability to fend off against a common type of mold found in the ground. So this is oftentimes what we're seeing with like delayed reactions and problems with postnasal drip and problems with sinus. So we here, our team at Live Innovations did put together a new formula called SNS, specifically designed for the sinus cavity, help to rebuild that mucosa lining and to help with the immune system and also with eye issues that are associated with sinus problems. And we're seeing amazing results with that. In addition, we have seen some indications with parasitic activity in the brain, as well as parasitic mold issues impacting the brain, as well as Lyme and other other things. So we have also developed a new product called BRN Pro, Brain Pro, that is designed to help support the brain's immune system. So it's both of these are nasal sprays, one spray up each nostril, usually 3 to 4 times a day as needed. But that is the Brain Pro. Honestly, when we finished putting together the formula, this was the highest effective score that we've ever deemed for a product in general. It was well over 860, I think it was, and it was very complex to make. And we had to make it in a small bottle because it was so complex. So, and we just want to continue to make it, try to make it as much as affordable as we could. But that's another one that really helps brain function as well. I did see one there, Dr. Rahman. I'm familiar with this. A client that we have has, maybe you have some ideas, and this could be something we could talk more about offline, but the problem with iodine, holding on to iodine. And we do see this routinely. So not sure if you have any ideas. We have in different clients, we do see this occasionally where people are unable to hold iodine. We actually have some, they can put it on their wrist to see how fast they absorb it. Usually it's gone right away. But there is have you seen that before? Any thoughts with protocols on anything like that?
Iodine's an interesting, there are some transport mechanisms that are a bit more complicated when it comes to iodine. For example, it's transported by protein as well. And so it could, in fact, be more representative of a sort of protein malabsorption, a kwashiorkor kind of syndrome, a leaky bowel. Like I would go right back to the bowel and think, okay, there's something bowel-based happening here that we need to pay more attention to. Potentially run an Indican type test by urine and find out if there is dysbiosis also happening that might be contributing here. The iodine also, there's a correlate to, of course, we know that there are certain enzyme processes that have to do with taking our T4 molecule and turning it into that activated T3 molecule. And that could be a process that's also being disrupted when someone is not holding their iodine. So that iodinase enzyme, a deiodinazing enzyme, if you will, might need also some support. That would actually entail some of the minerals such as selenium, for example, that might be important here in which to look at.
That's a good point. The master mineral of the thyroid. Typically, hypothyroidism is a common indicator with that. So, thyroid products, and I know that there's a lot of this client is taking a lot of different thyroid support products, but they're continued to test a little bit low. There might be even some disease process.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just saying there might be even a disease process with that that may be stemming some of these issues, may need to be looked at on the chromosome level to see what might be indicated there using our luminosity or something like that.
There's the discussion also, there's a few thyroid questions actually I see here in our Q&A here about Thyroid Pro, and I'd love to speak to that. Thyroid Pro is a favorite of mine. I'm oftentimes, tossing up between, do we touch the thyroid and work solely with thyroid, or do we think about network and work with the entire endocrine network? Because it's oftentimes that is the case. You'll need to look at, okay, so how are the adrenals responding in this situation? Is there any crossover to a reactive hypoglycemia? Is there a pancreatic influence in here that's also at work through this whole sort of picture? And so oftentimes I'm going back and forth. Do we use the ML Pro, FML Pro, or the Thyroid Pro? I really do think that, especially for those of you that do some level of energetic or frequency-based testing, you should think about testing either the tonic type remedy or the Thyroid Pro remedy on its own, and see, or an adrenal related supportive remedy, and see which one of these is the first place in which you have to work. And sometimes that's actually a little bit of trial and error. Sometimes that's actually how well do I know or how well do I understand the client that's in front of me. And if I actually think that doing something a little too drastic is going to be too much for that constitutional type, then I might need to go really low and slow and maybe work with something that is very tonic in nature, in which case I would go with the FML Pro, right? The glandular sort of supportive as a whole. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. And just for those that maybe aren't familiar, in the Alive Innovations catalog, we do list something called MOXIs because these are recommended as dietary supplements. What we want you to understand is that these are micronutrients, and they are in a similar family to homeopathics, but not exactly. They actually take it one step further because we actually embed micronutrients as carriers with these. And if you look at the MOXIE in those, we do have the T4 and T3 MOXIEs. This means the product supports those areas as well. So it's not always directly on the label because of legalities. We can't put stuff down they can't test for, but the scientific development of the product does relate back to what's in the catalog for those products. And I would say one of the things that we could probably look to more so is hormone issues as it relates to the thyroid and potentially stimulus from different parts of the nervous system on the thyroid that we can look at for why someone may be more deficient, because their adrenals, many organs are producing hormones that can compete. And if there is something, or maybe even autoimmune issue or something like that, those are other things that we would need to take a look at, maybe leap deeper in depth for that.
Yeah, that's definitely, as it was in that chart that I showed at the last part of my presentation, there's an overlap between what happens with that our endocrine nervous and our nervous system. There's definitely a marriage there. And the autonomic nervous system, there are some wonderful supportive microblend remedies for the autonomic nervous system. The NVS Pro remedy, for example, is, I think, par excellence for bringing both that parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system into tone.
Yeah, I agree. We don't have a lot of time yet. We'll take maybe two more questions. So one of the questions is regarding the Allergy Pro, can alleviate environmental allergies. So first of all, and Dr. Ohm may have something else to weigh in on. When a person has allergies, you have to understand there's a problem with sensitivity. And sometimes the sensitivity is also related to drainage pathways. So there's multiple things that we're looking at with the Allergy Pro. But in a short answer, absolutely. We have people that take this 5-10 sprays one time in the morning that were taking Zyrtec and all these other fancy things, and they're not having to do that anymore. The SNS does also bridge that gap. So you have those that develop itchy eyes and maybe they just itch all over. That's a little bit different. If you have those that develop the sinus headaches or things like that, then that SNS is also kind of a bridge to not only the immune system, but also it does have allergy support built into the SNS as well. But in a short answer, yes. And regarding the dietary allergies, I would look to liver function. I would also look to the GI system, because those reactions in the body tend to be more as a result of the body not being able to break down those proteins. And so when we balance that back out with things like the GI DX or GI Pro, oftentimes those non-yeast probiotics, then we also see less of a reaction. And then those can also be introduced by imprinting the product, like we mentioned earlier. Any other thoughts to add to that?
No, I think you covered. It really is about looking at the health of the gut when we're dealing with the food intolerances. Aller Balance or Aller Pro is not the first thing I think of for that kind of allergen. I think a bit more for the respiratory-based allergen. And it's something that you can start off with a little bit more intensively and then sort of wean away from. Just today, for example, I had someone who actually, started using it very significantly for 2 months, 3 months. And then when I met with her today, she told me she no longer needs it or uses it only as needed, PRN. So, yeah, wonderful product.
Yeah. And then one final point here, this will be our last question. the long haulers from COVID that have the Dr. Rahman, when I first discovered this, he was gracious enough to do a lot of research on this to help me write that article. So we owe a lot of credit to him as well for that. But we found it actually on, my wife 3 or 4 years ago, very early on, that she had A positive blood type, had developed a sensitivity to D, where she couldn't bind with D. And then we also found through just testing myriads, hundreds of people, that O positive, by the way, A positive then developed a hypercalcemia issue. Then O positive developed just a hypercalcemia issue. And this was almost our nurses, when we called back all of our clients that we had tested. When I first found this, and I told Dr. Rahman, I says, I think I found something. I don't know. And he's like looking through, he's doing his magic on everything. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, I think there's something to what you are seeing. So we put together, maybe you could just explain a little bit more to what what we found and what we discussed on that, and maybe some possible solutions.
Yeah, the mechanism is pretty complex. I mean, it's probably good to look at the articles that were written in terms of how this all comes together. But there is an involvement of certain modifiers of the immune system, such as the macrophages and their influence. And those macrophages are represented in your blood as monocytes. And so you could get clues in different ways also by looking at, say, someone's plasma levels of monocytes, because there's a conversion that happens at that level too. And the communicating molecules or the things that happen with the interleukins and the cytokines from COVID, or from naturally unacquired or acquired COVID through vaccination, is actually also responsible for maybe adding chaos to those communicating molecules, and therefore changing a lot of the ways that those responders work and show up. And so I think that there was something to be said about that. And the modifiers for the receptors as well. And that comes a lot. Any receptor chemistry can be broken down to, listen, if you have modifications in the signaling outside the cell, essentially that receptor is going to change. It's either going to express itself too much because there's not enough signaling happening, or it's going to downregulate an involute because it's in a sea of plenty, right? Yeah. And so this is why you can see people getting not enough D or toxic on D, yet not getting the responses because their receptors are all involuted. Yeah. Right,
exactly.
And not getting the proper responses whereby they're getting the PTH responses and the calcium being balanced in the body. It's the opposite. We move into that hypercalcemia state because, again, in the midst of plenty of vitamin D in the system, the receptors will involute. That comes as a result of chaos in the immune system.
Yeah, what you're going to see, and what's interesting about this, many of you that are online or that know Dr. Ellie Campbell, she's a good friend of ours. She's one of the foremost experts on vitamin D. When I presented this to her, she was just like, "Oh my gosh, when is the last time you heard someone reacting to vitamin D? I mean, you literally would have to take a pile of it." And a lot of the clients that we saw were not taking any vitamin D, and they had detoxicity issues. So we do know, without getting into a lot more with this, we do know that adrenals and thyroid, endocrine systems were attacked during that exposure. And for some reason, this DNA weakness caused this cascade of problems. The BRN Pro was one of the products that we designed that we're working on testing for systematic issues, because some of those that have had the detoxicity issue, hypercalcemia, have also now suffered from neurological issues as a result. So that's where the BRN Pro comes in to help support those issues. We are still working to uncover that. We have a managed program now, which seems to lessen the load, like Dr. Rahman mentioned earlier, with the Allergy Pro, INFL, with the interleukin support and so forth.
I believe we have actually some documentation, some new articles that are coming out in the next little while regarding this as well.
We'll be releasing more information on that. But we know you guys are all tired, so we want to let you go. So we appreciate everybody participating. And if you enjoyed this, please let us know. If you don't, maybe let somebody else know. So if you have any other suggestions, yeah, feel free to let us know. We're here to support you.
Yeah, and again, I throw it out there that if there is anything like a question about a lot of these questions today might have been specific for some of the clients that you were working with, but if you had those kind of questions and you wanted to put them forward to, well, I know a lot of you know Jared personally, but even just wanted Dr. Ram and myself to weigh in on that as well, throw them out to us, please.
All right. Well, thank you, Jared, and thank you, Dr. Rahman. Thank you to everybody in attendance right now for making this webinar a success. We hope you enjoyed it. And again, like they mentioned, if you do have suggestions for other upcoming webinars, feel free to email us. We will be releasing the next date for our next webinar shortly. We're also going to email out a replay of this webinar for everybody in attendance to review. So once again, thank you so much, and everybody have a great night.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a great night.